Omar Khan maybe gave away that the Steelers like George Pickens. I don't know. Hear for yourself.
I had a really solid exit meeting with GP, and I can tell you that he has a desire to be great. He has a desire to be great here. We have a desire for him to be great and to be great here. With respect to the contract, we won't discuss that publicly, and usually those things are addressed at a later date.
All right, two things. My first thing, I believe a holdout for George Pickens is possible. Okay. My second thing is that maybe the Steelers are going to sign George Pickens to an extension. Maybe that's a possibility. I don't think I'm super sold on it yet. Like, by no means did I take that comment and say the Steelers are 100% signing George Pickens. But I will say that I think they're realistic about the situation. That's the best part about Indianapolis and about the NFL Combine. This is the first time that we get to understand that the Steelers are not being as terrible as our brains will convince us they are for the last 3 weeks. Because that's all we do is sit around going, this team's going to blow it all up. It's going to be wild. You don't even understand how to fix the changes that are about to happen because there's going to be so many. And then you get here and you realize the Steelers have a pretty good plan and they're seeing this stuff realistically. And I think the big thing is right now they see the wide receiver market realistically, and realistically speaking, there isn't anybody to replace George Pickens. So therefore they have to consider the option of extending him. And I don't know. I think that it's on the table. I'm still not saying it's likely, but I think it's more on the table than I thought it was 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago when I walked in here. Your thoughts?
I think that my mind still stays the same. I think that what Omar said there is they want him to eventually be their number one, that they would love for him to turn into the star centerpiece of the offense that he has the potential to be, but nothing there screamed sense of urgency to me. And I understand there's a chance George Pickens tries to hold out and says that he wants his contract extension before 2025 season even starts. But part of me also thinks maybe part of that really good end of season discussion between Omar Khan and George Pickens was, listen, we aren't going to talk extension with you because there have been issues. And there's a chance that conversation ended with, we're going to let you play 2025. And we would love for you to be the centerpiece of our offense in 2026 and beyond. It tells me that the Steelers organization, at least this is what I gleaned upon from this, is that the Steelers organization wants desperately George Pickens to take the reins, to mature, and to become the top 5 wide receiver we all know he has the talent of being.
Yeah.
But nothing in that answer told me that they are willing to pay the man and take the risk for everything else that he has been, for all of the late to practice stories, all of the late to game stories, all of the not paying attention or is distracting or is out of the play in a Hail Mary, all of that stuff I think is still in the Steelers' mind. And nothing in that answer told me that there is a sense of urgency to get a contract done this summer. What it did tell me is they're probably not going to give up on George Pickens, which means a trade is unlikely now.
And I don't know. I agree with the first part. I don't think I agree with the trade. I think a trade. I think the right team calls with the right answer. That's all it's going to take. You know?
Anybody offers enough, then somebody's on the table. Like George Pickens isn't hey, listen, bar none, this is a franchise cornerstone. We're not getting rid of him. He's not a TJ Watt, but I still would put that in the unlikely category.
Yeah, I mean, but I think I agree with that. But you never know. But I agree with the contract. That's where I stand too. Is the Steelers are not? I didn't take they're going to sign him. I didn't take this as he's already in negotiations. I took this as Omar's pushing this back to say in the summer we'll address it and we'll see how George looks in the summer and what happens come training camp and OTAs. And the unfortunate part is that the whole process is going to only hurt George Pickens' chances because he's gonna potentially hold out, which is not going to look good on the maturity side of things, even though that's what he should be doing, is holding out. That's what players do, is they say, I'm not going to risk injury until I get a contract. And I don't care what your thoughts are on player versus team. I'm always pro player, even if that player has maturity issues. And I agree with that. Don't risk health at OTAs for a contract. I agree with that. But that's only going to hurt George Pickens. And I don't know how this ends. I don't know how this ends. I will say that the response was different than what Art Rooney said, which you have to take into account, because Art Rooney was George has a lot left to learn. Mike Tomlin was, George has a lot left to learn. Omar was, me and George had a great meeting, and we'll see what happens, and we want him to be great. And I think that's the first indication of maybe the Steelers are willing to see how this thing plays out. But again, if he doesn't get a contract this offseason, I mean, is he even gonna, if he doesn't show up to training camp, there's just no chance that the Steelers are sitting around saying, yeah, we're going to get to a deal. And I don't know how that turns out. That's why I say a trade is, when you say unlikely, I mean, he doesn't show up to Latrobe every day that passes. A trade is more likely. Out or trade him, you're going to trade him because you're going to get something big for him, and it's not like, that's the thing. If this was a 4th round pick, you could say, who cares? But this is a 1st round pick on a guy that you don't see past this season. So maybe you could trade it. So I still think it's on the table, but I agree with you. I looked at it as exactly like you said. The Steelers would like to see this thing play out in their favor, with George turning into what we want George to turn into. How realistic that is, I mean, I don't know. I think that's everybody's opinion right now. Nobody could really state anything other. There is no fact in the matter of this. It is just, we will find out when we find out, and George will let us know come July. That's when we will find out.